I'm Ben Irwin, and I'm the Director of Assessment and Accountability at CCSSO, where I have the privilege of working with many of you on state efforts to improve these systems. Throughout day one and in the previous panel discussion, we've talked a lot about coherence of state assessment systems and alignment to a broader strategy to improve student outcomes. I'd argue that coherence and alignment are equally important in the context of state accountability and school improvement systems. At a basic level, school accountability systems are a statement of values. They offer a definition of school quality and they elevate state priorities. By providing timely, actionable data, they identify schools in need of support and offer valuable information to key stakeholders to drive decision-making. But we know that accountability systems are about a lot more than just identifying schools. It's what we do with the data that really determines the impact of these systems. And that's where school improvement comes in. State school improvement systems pick up where accountability leaves off. These systems are designed to identify needs, understand root causes, and implement evidence-based interventions, guiding schools and districts as they chart their path towards improved student outcomes. When these systems are aligned, states form a continuous improvement cycle where data drives action and decision-making at the state and local level. But making these connections really requires a coordinated effort, and states are perfectly positioned to lead the charge on that. Following the Every Student Succeeds Act, states were granted even greater authority and accountability in school improvement. And despite multiple years of interrupted implementation, states have really made meaningful connections between these two systems. Yesterday, my colleague Peter Zamora mentioned the importance of state leadership and opportunities to continue to lead in this current moment. I want to dig in a little bit more and highlight the ways in which states have already been leading on continuous improvement and highlight opportunities to continue leading the charge. So hold on to your seats because we're going to dig into each stage of this process and explore the ways in which states are connecting every stage of their continuous improvement cycle with the ultimate goal of driving and improving student outcomes. So before we choose our indicators or identify our interventions, states can really set themselves up for success by building strong foundations. That means developing a unified theory of action for these systems or organizing themselves and creating structures that support lasting collaboration within state agencies and between districts, schools, and agencies as well. In Colorado, for example, they've developed a unified theory of action that links their accountability and school improvement systems and identifies connections at every stage of their continuous improvement cycle. In Nebraska, they took the structured approach where they established the Office of Coordinated School and District Improvement, which houses school accountability, school improvement, and teacher and leader supports. Each one of these approaches really lays the groundwork for a coherent, systems-based approach to accountability and school improvement. Another key building block of an aligned system are the indicators we use to evaluate school quality. So not a controversial opinion. We all know that what we measure really matters, especially in a room full of measurement experts. It reflects state priorities. It incentivizes specific investments and activities at the local level. And they're also a starting point for any conversation that we have on school improvement. So some states are broadening the number of indicators they include in their accountability system to really account for the local context, while other states are really narrowing in on what matters most to them. So let's take Louisiana, for example. They recently streamlined their state accountability system to really focus in on academic achievement, growth, and college and career readiness. They really doubled down on academic growth by establishing 2 new indicators that reward student growth of the bottom 25%, students performing in the bottom 25%. And this shift really reinforces their broader emphasis on improved instruction and goes even further by aligning themselves to their curriculum-focused school improvement supports as well. So once a school is identified for support, conducting a needs assessment is an important first step to inform decision-making. And while we know that comprehensive data on school quality is important, accountability systems really help to focus the conversation on key priorities and things that are going to result in improved student outcomes. So Rhode Island is a great example of this. They've aligned their accountability indicators directly to their state instructional goals, and they've developed practical resources like a report card organizer to help build state capacity to conduct a needs assessment and ensure that they're focused on the right data as they're conducting their needs assessment, identifying their priorities, and then developing a school improvement plan. And then building on a needs assessment, school improvement plans really bridge the gap between data and action. They lay out how schools plan to tackle their most pressing challenges, And states can support this in a number of ways, including providing templates, guidance, and even hands-on technical assistance. Indiana takes this a step further by linking their improvement plan directly to grant funding. Grants are awarded based on need and the interventions that are outlined in their plans. And this ensures that the actual funding awarded matches the real cost of school improvement in some cases, and it ensures that funding is being used on effective interventions. And speaking of effective interventions, we know that states are stepping up when it comes to supporting districts and identifying the interventions that are most aligned to their needs. By offering approved or recommended lists, they help districts focus on what works and offer interventions aligned to state priorities and the needs that are called out in their needs assessment. New York offers a strong example here. The state has developed a comprehensive school improvement plan rubric that guides schools in choosing their interventions, and they've also developed a list of state-supported interventions and that provides the evidence base aligned to ESSA's requirements. So they're saving districts a step, they're lending their capacity to ensure that districts are able to focus on, schools and districts are able to focus on these effective practices. And finally, we know that accountability systems are not always designed to deliver real-time data, and there's a gap between implementation and the impact we see in state accountability systems. And that's where progress monitoring comes in. It can bridge the gap and inform updates to implementation as states are in the improvement process. Looking at New Mexico, they've developed a really robust protocol where agency leaders visit schools several times a year over a 3-year period. At these visits, they conduct leadership interviews, deep dives into data, and track progress towards the goals that they've outlined in their improvement plans. So what's more, the state also uses what they learn to tailor professional development opportunities and update the supports that they're providing to these schools. So it goes beyond just a check-in, and they leverage progress monitoring as an opportunity to improve the services that they're providing as well. So finally, when this all comes together, when interventions are implemented well and schools make real progress, they're able to exit that improvement status. But we know that when schools exit, so do the resources and supports that help drive that improvement. And with that in mind, states are really prioritizing sustainability in their exit criteria to ensure that schools have the capacity to continue serving students at a high level. That might mean maintaining certain performance levels over a multi-year period, and it could mean demonstrating that there are structures in place to continue this progress. Looking specifically at Tennessee, schools must either outperform the bottom 10% of schools for multiple years or show consistent, meaningful growth over that same period. In Wisconsin, schools are looking beyond improved outcomes, and they're looking beyond improved outcomes, and they require schools to demonstrate that they've built the systems, structures, and processes needed to sustain those gains. The goal of these continuous improvement cycles is not just to improve in the near term, and we know how important rapid school improvement is, but it's to lay the groundwork and build local capacity to continue serving students effectively. So at every stage of the process, I'm seeing states step up. They're redesigning accountability systems, redesigning improvement systems to work better for schools and districts with the ultimate goal of improving student outcomes. By connecting systems, aligning goals, and staying focused on key priorities, state leaders are building a stronger, more coherent path for continuous improvement. I'm really looking forward to continue supporting and tracking these efforts in the states as you take on this leadership role of reimagining your systems of support for schools. So I'd like to thank you for your time today as we went through each stage of this process. And I think as was evident throughout this talk, and I know many of you are as well, we're big data people and we know how important it is at every stage of the process. But linking data systems to provide these actionable insights is a really tall task and something that state agencies are constantly working to improve.